About 2 years ago, there was a raid in Chicago, and the cops in this case, as in many other cases that we've shared with you on this show, unfortunately went into the wrong home and then proceeded to handcuff an innocent woman as she was completely nude. She had just taken a shower. Her name is Anjanette Young, and she was telling the cops in this case that they had entered the wrong home. The Chicago police were specifically trying to investigate what an informant had told them about a felon with guns in a particular home. Apparently they were supposed to do this raid at the neighbor's house, not Anjanette Young's home. Now, there has been this effort to get video of what happened 2 years ago, and eventually it was leaked. CBS 2 TV released body camera footage this week, in fact, of the officers forcing their way into her home in 2019. The 50-year-old clinical social worker had just finished her work shift at a hospital and was actually undressing in her bedroom when they used a battering ram to enter her home. Now, in this disturbing February 21st, 2019 footage, officers appear to have their guns drawn while they yell for Young to put her hands up. She can then be seen in the video fully naked with her hands raised, looking terrified and confused. One officer put Young's hands behind her back and handcuffs her, leaving her with no way to cover herself as police search her home. She's standing there naked, handcuffed, telling them you have the wrong home. She's a 50-year-old woman. And they're just not listening to her. They're letting her just stand there. They're leaving her to just stand there handcuffed and nude. An officer can be seen attempting to drape a short coat around Young's shoulders, which still leaves her front fully exposed while police surround her. Someone puts a blanket on her that keeps sliding open because she can't hold it closed. Young asks them repeatedly to let her put clothes on and tells them she believes they have the wrong information, and they did in fact have the wrong information. Police were told at least 43 times based on this video footage that they had the wrong home, totally ignored her. The unnamed informant again told the police that they had seen a felon with guns at an address nearby, but again, cops had the wrong address. The correct address was the next door neighbors. How many times is this gonna happen? People are just getting terrorized by cops using battering rams to like enter people's homes. And they do it with like the wrong intel, the wrong information. People get traumatized and victimized in this way. I'm so relieved that she wasn't shot and killed, because that oftentimes happens, as was the case with Breonna Taylor. And nothing changes, nothing changes. Sometimes you'll get some proposals for, maybe we need to get rid of no-knock warrants in certain cases, but nothing substantive ever gets done. And this is America, right? Where we're supposed to have freedom and we're supposed to feel safe in our own homes. But these stories at this point feel like, I don't know, they're just consistent. They come out all the time, and it's so frustrating that nothing changes, John.
Yeah, and look, if you're gonna bust into someone's house with your guns drawn, presumably thinking that you might be shot at or you might have to shoot someone, you would want to be very careful about it and check all your facts, unless you believe that you were protected from any consequences from you making a mistake. If you had been trained through personal experience and watching what happens in police departments around the country to believe that there are no consequences for virtually anything you could do, no matter how egregious, then maybe you wouldn't be so careful and you wouldn't check really carefully, and you wouldn't really mind if you were leaving a 50-year-old woman naked in a group of strangers, fearing that she could be shot at any second. This is what we have produced, because that's what police are. And again, like in one of the stories we were talking about earlier, I try to think about what would have to be true to make this behavior reasonable, for what the cops to have done in their minds to have been reasonable. And you mentioned that someone had been seen with a weapon, but she's naked, so she clearly doesn't have a weapon. So they have to think that in the time it would take for her handcuffs to be taken off and for her to put clothes on, she would either, with multiple people with guns surrounding her, be able to get to a weapon and begin killing the cops around her, or kill them with her bare hands. That is the only explanation for why you would not allow her to put a shirt on and keep her handcuffed instead, is if you believe that she will kill cops with her bare hands.
Also, can the cops just pause for a second and make sure they have the right address before they do a raid? Can they just try that for once? Just really confirm that the right address is being pursued. But no, apparently, it's very important to just go for it, regardless of what kind of mistakes can be made. And so there are two issues here. Of course, issue number one is the raid itself, but the aftermath, I think, is indicative of this like cover-up culture that we see, not just with this police department, but with police departments throughout the country. So Young wanted that footage. This happened 2 years ago. So she had requested that footage. Remember, these are cops who are paid by taxpayers, they're public employees, so people have the right to access this footage. And so she had filed a Freedom of Information Act request, and they just refused to hand over the body camera footage. And then eventually it was released, but it appears that it was released through a leak. The city of Chicago filed an emergency motion in federal court to stop CBS Chicago from broadcasting the apparently leaked footage in its broadcast. The city argued airing the video violated a confidentiality agreement. But luckily, a federal judge denied the motion, ruling the TV station was not a party to the agreement. Asked about the case at a press conference, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot said this: because of the concern that we saw and was expressed, we changed the protocols for search warrants. It requires now 2 supervisors. It requires a pre-check of the location. Okay, that's good, that's what I asked for. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we've solved every problem, but what I've directed my law department to do is resolve any pending cases with respect to Young's situation. But it appears that they did everything that they could to try to bury this video. And luckily, the local news was able to get a hold of it and show people what that scene was really like. Obviously, we didn't show it on this show, even though the nudity is blurred. It's so degrading and so disgusting. I don't want to sit through that.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me that they can not release the footage. Like I get why just any random person can't necessarily get it in 5 minutes. I get that, especially if they're routinely filming people that are naked, even though they don't need to be. You could let them get dressed. But the idea that I can't get the footage that you have of me, when like we all know from TV, I pay your salary, like that's not your camera. That's a part of your uniform and clearly is put there because we have reason to suspect that you're doing a lot of stuff that's totally wrong. Like when they say no, we're not gonna release it, she should be able to go to a judge, and if they don't release it, the firing should begin. And they should start clearing people out of that department until we get people that understand their relationship with the public. But again, they're not worried about that. They're not worried about getting the wrong house. They're not worried they're gonna lose their jobs. They're not worried that their pay is gonna be docked. We need to make them more worried about brutalizing us or inflicting injustice upon us than they are right now. Because right now they just don't have any reason to fear that. Either the police union is strong enough, or just the, when they shoot and kill people, the prosecution rate is too low. Let alone the people who are actually sent to jail. There just aren't enough consequences. It all comes down to incentives, and it is obvious what the incentives are here.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.